I'm standing across the Lehigh River from the main offices and steel plant of the Bethlehem Steel Company. I first came here in 1952, fresh out of the University of Washington in Seattle, as a new member of the company's management training program. When my wife and I and our year-old daughter arrived in Bethlehem, we felt it was the start of a career that probably would last a lifetime. We felt confident that progress would be fairly rapid, that we could expect better housing, better income, a finer way of life. In fact, it's a subject of the recruitment booklet that's put out to attract college graduates, how wonderful living is in the plant communities around the country. Right here in Bethlehem, there is a very magnificent private club called the Saucon Valley Country Club, and the higher-ups in the Bethlehem Steel Company belong to this club. They know they've got it made when they're invited to join the Saucon Valley Country Club, and this is the epitome, I guess, in the Lehigh Valley area of fine, gracious living.
Over the years, promotions came to David Wood. Working at the company's West Coast office, he enjoyed corporate living.
In fact, perhaps life was becoming too good. I was growing less and less concerned about the, if you want to call them, the burning social and economic and political issues of the day. Frankly, my wife and my family and myself were just enjoying life too much. Then I went to a dinner at San Jose State College to hear a typical commencement speech by a typical corporate public relations director. He talked about the dangers to private initiative and individual freedom of big government and creeping socialism and the welfare state, and the importance of the profit system. Well, this is something that we public relations men have been warning the American people about for years. These are scare phrases we throw around. But what we never seem to talk about is the danger to individual freedom of the corporation itself, the growing complacency, the overwhelming feeling of human comfort that we have when we work up in a corporation and we're earning a good living and we're all very happy and we can ignore these problems because life is so good. Well, because of this particular speech, I felt strongly enough to write my own rebuttal. And I decided to eliminate all references to Bethlehem Steel and submit it as a magazine article to Harper's Magazine. Now, what I said, in effect, in this article is that if businessmen are really concerned about big government and creeping socialism and the welfare state, what they ought to do is get out and do something to solve the problems of our society themselves, rather than sitting back and waiting for big government to do it for them. The article was published in the November issue of Harper's Magazine last year, and I must say the reaction was pretty immediate and pretty surprising to me. I remember my secretary reporting to me one day that she had had a conversation with some of the people in the industrial relations department who had expressed surprise that I would do such a terrible thing because I was jeopardizing my way of earning a livelihood, and I had, after all, a wife and 5 children to support, and it was not fair to them that I would speak out in such a way as to jeopardize my future employment. In a couple of weeks, the head of our department from Bethlehem here came out to San Francisco and had a long heart-to-heart fatherly talk with me, in which the essence was that any future writing I might do should be submitted to the company in advance so that they could review it and make any suggested changes or corrections that they would feel would be embarrassing to the company. Nevertheless, he admitted that I had a right to freedom of expression, and therefore this would be a kind of compromise. It sounded fairly reasonable, and I agreed to submit anything that I wrote in the future to the company for its comment. Last February, after researching the retirement programs of several other companies, I did submit a second article to Bethlehem's management here in the home office. I had become interested in retirement programs because I'd been interviewing Bethlehem employees for a number of years for stories about their retirement. I felt strongly enough about this to do some research on what some other companies were doing and to do an article on the subject. By implication, I suppose, I was criticizing my own company because I praised the programs of these other companies, and Bethlehem was doing none of these things that I praised. Well, they sat on the article for about 2 weeks back here. I wondered what was happening. I was curious, interested on what changes they would request. And then I found out that I wasn't going to get a response because the Vice President of Industrial and Public Relations was on a trip and would not be back till the last week of February. He returned on a Monday, and as I heard later, got around to reading the article on Tuesday, and on Wednesday morning, the Home Office called my boss in San Francisco and told him to let me go effective immediately. I would be paid for the final 2 days of February. I would receive my vacation pay for the month of March, and I would receive severance pay that was coming to me as an employee of more than 11 years.